Thank you, Dr. Kevin and Dr. Yusuf, for your welcome remarks. It is now my honour to introduce Her Royal Highness Princess Sumaya bint El Hassan to deliver the opening keynote. Her Royal Highness is a leading advocate for science as a catalyst for change. She is a dedicated science enabler in the Arab world, where so many challenges urgently require science-based solutions. The Princess has worked for over a decade to help foster an environment for homegrown solutions to be found for pressing issues facing the region. Her Royal Highness is President of the Royal Scientific Society, Chair of the Princess Sumaya University for Technology, and Vice Chair of the Jordan Museum. In June 2017, the Director General of UNESCO appointed Her Royal Highness as UNESCO Special Envoy for Science and Peace, and this unique honour recognises Her Royal Highness's efforts to combine science and research with cultural heritage to foster peace, opportunity, and prosperity. Princess Sumaya was chair of the World Science Forum 2017, which was held in Jordan under the theme of Science for Peace, under the patronage of His Majesty King Abdullah II. In August 2020, the Director General of UNESCO appointed Her Royal Highness as UNESCO Goodwill Ambassador for Science for Peace. Please welcome Her Royal Highness Princess Sumaya.
Thank you very much, Anton, and good morning, everybody. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على النبي العربي الأمين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Dr. Kevin Downing, Chair of QS Maple International Academic Advisory Committee, Mr. Ben Sauter, Senior Vice President of QS Kwakwari, His Excellency Dr. Hakima Al-Haiti, Special Envoy for Climate Change of UNFCCC Morocco, Professor Khaled Abdel Ghaffar, Minister of Higher Education and Scientific Research of Egypt, Professor Idris, Minister Delegate in charge of Higher Education and Scientific Research in Morocco, and of course, my very dear friend, Dr. Isa Al-Ansari, President of the Prince Mohammed bin Fahd University, and Dr. Faisal Yusuf Al-Anezi, Vice President for Academic Affairs at PMU, Presidents, Vice Presidents, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure for me to be with you all this morning. Ladies and gentlemen, as things are incredibly different this year, imagining the future today may seem like a struggle for many as our world tries desperately to emerge from a crippling and traumatizing pandemic. COVID-19 has dealt a cruel blow to many and has highlighted imbalances and inequities between and within societies. It has shone a light on systemic inadequacies and social inequalities. It has challenged us in so many ways, yet it has also reaffirmed for so many of us the immutable fact that in knowledge lies resilience. Indeed, truly, equality and real sustainability are born out of education for all, and by empowering our brightest and best and providing them with the opportunities they crave to help build their own societies, we will ensure a steady course for 2030. For if we read and respond to the overwhelming global transformation wrought by knowledge, one that has been highlighted in this present global crisis, and if we do so in critical and creative ways, then for the very first time in our shared human history, we may enter an age in which our economic future depends upon supporting and nurturing all our fellow human beings, not simply those who are born to elite nations or sections of society. Indeed, we will neither grow nor prosper unless we release and celebrate our collective human creative capacities. If we are to fulfill our full potential, then we must not leave anyone behind. If we manage this unlocking with care and avoid the dangers to quality of massification, then we will succeed in overcoming the many challenges of our age. I know that we all seek to nurture innovation through engagement with our talented young people And in so doing, in our Arab context, we recognize our own people's historic journey from Nahda to Tanweer, from awakening to enlightenment. For the future belongs to our talented youth, and theirs is the knowledge economy that will inevitably define our world in the years to come. The young people of our region, and yours, who we champion through education, represent all that is best about humanity. They question and they probe. They analyze and they imagine. They are the creative future of our challenged world, and their thirst for knowledge, their need to inquire, is a gift to us all. I believe that our region and our world are sorely in need of that renewed and inspired thirst for knowledge and all that it can unlock. For better or for worse, we, emerging economies, can very immediately and acutely represent growing global challenges that urgently need knowledge-based solutions. Our problems today will be all the world's tomorrow, particularly with regard to issues such as water, energy, migration, and social responsibility for justice and fairness. We are challenged indeed, but how blessed we are to have our youth in our midst. The fundamental question that must be addressed by us is, how do we ensure that our developing nations may ignite and improve our capacity for research and for innovation, while also contributing to the meaningful solution of local challenges that may inevitably become global? I believe that investment is only part of the answer. The simple truth is that all national development programs must inspire, nurture, recruit, and retain the very best talent. But this is truly a challenge, as by definition, these researchers and innovators feel driven to gain a place at top universities, research institutions, in burgeoning economies around the world. There is no quick fixes solution for building a long-lasting innovation cycle in emerging economies, one that will ensure a true knowledge economy takes root and grows to bring shade to all. However, it cannot even begin without initiating, establishing, and rooting a supportive innovation culture, one that has begun nurturing education, innovation, and research outputs may blossom, and a sustainable economy based truly on knowledge may begin to thrive. I believe that the greatest challenge facing academia and government when it comes to nurturing a knowledge economy is in measuring or assessing impact so that budgets and strategies may be targeted for greatest impact. As an example, I would mention science funding mechanisms, which are severely affected by a lack of economically useful measures of impact. And it is clear that science and science education agencies, who must focus their expertise on identifying and funding the best research, are not best placed to define the links behind and between research and innovation. That comes further down the line. In my experience, science agencies and others will inevitably focus on the number or quality of publications or on patent activity. But this places the emphasis on certain parts of the innovation cycle over others and makes the government's job in terms of regulation and funding far more challenging. If we educators and our governments truly care about funding for a better future, then we must seek to measure the ways in which funding steers scientists and other researchers into particular research fields as a first stage, and then, and if, and how those researchers transfer ideas, the knowledge economy may only be fed by knowledge combined with capacity transfer. I believe that fostering a meaningful connection between science funding, and of course I include the social sciences in this, and holistic economic growth must be based on thoughtful measurement by academia and government working together. This is truly where the innovation begins. I'm delighted to note that we have established a data research centre at the Royal Scientific Society in Jordan to assist the government with this and to enrich curricular planning and content at our campus university. And in many ways, the government has already helped us with this. We are fortunate that Jordan has one of the most advanced ICT infrastructures in the region. Indeed, the total internet bandwidth is 100 GB, which in essence supports our initiative. Jordan has also a widespread fiber infrastructure that spans the country and allows the flow of large data volumes to and from the center. We also have multiple fiber channels with neighboring countries, including the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. The global pandemic has starkly highlighted the need for this sort of infrastructure and for ICT access at every level. Of course, collecting and holding data is not the full story when it comes to laying foundations for sustainable knowledge growth. Academia must support governments or their agencies in assessing and analyzing data by promoting the value of the social and economic sciences. Understanding the needs of the economy now and in the future must be a multidisciplinary endeavor. Governments must be made to understand the importance of big data and the vital role of assessment and analysis. As educators, we must also allow our inherited culture of academia to respond to changing dynamics. Indeed, we must also evolve and reimagine our academic DNA. I would suggest one vital move is to shift focus from publications as a way to measure scientific or other academic output in a country. I believe this can be very damaging to innovation in academia, particularly in developing economies, as it encourages researchers who seek to publish first to hoard knowledge, and it also has a detrimental effect on the support that institutions give to research. Indeed, less risky may be safer to guarantee that something, anything, may be published. This culture can also produce too many postdoctoral fellowships to fuel publications. How is the encouragement of innovation to the fore in such a system? Ladies and gentlemen, our testing time must not prove to be in vain. The pandemic has made our planet pause and has shown clearly how the potential for division is still very real and potentially destructive. Let us look back on this period as one in which knowledge came to the rescue and innovation brought us near miraculous delivery. However, we must continue to emphasize to all that a knowledge economy is not just one where knowledge is consumed. It is where knowledge is consumed and created. And to support an innovative journey to 2030, we must support and encourage diversity and ensure tolerance in academia. These, I believe, are some key components for knowledge to flow freely and creatively. I wish you all well at QS Maple 2021, and I congratulate you for imagining today a truly better future for tomorrow.
Thank you very much for that, Your Royal Highness Princess Sumaya. Now, we have been blessed with the ability to ask the Princess some questions. She's agreed to answer some stuff that came through. So I wanted to take the opportunity. At the very start, you made the comment that it's very difficult to imagine the future today, and that is the conference theme. But I suppose with a lot of the effects, the impacts of COVID-19, how did the pandemic affect your work as a UNESCO Special Envoy and Goodwill Ambassador Ambassador for Science for Peace, and how were those challenges overcome?
Thank you, Anton, very much. And again, let me apologize for whatever that was that happened in the middle of my speech, which totally threw me off track.
Absolutely fine.
How did it affect? I think, there's so many different ways of looking at this. Of course, one would have wanted to be able to travel the world. And I, of course, had a very active program for 2020 in particular, where we were really going to be talking about how we can bring together not only the science community in terms of the life sciences, but celebrate the merging of life sciences with social sciences, because we recognize very much that it's important that we are all working together as one science family. And at first, of course, I think we were all derailed by the pandemic and trying to figure out what we could do in terms of getting our work back together. But if there has been one thing that has been a silver lining out of all of this, I would say it's conferences exactly like this one, in that we've been able to meet virtually. We've not had to worry about travel and hotels and checking in and all of that kind of thing. And a couple of meetings that we've actually had where we, weren't anticipating a full house actually has meant that we have had general assemblies where every single member has attended. We've had really been able to get people together. And so I think, if anything, the pandemic has shown us that we are a very big, small world that can come together and do very, very much with very, very little at times of challenges like these to our world and to humanity at large.
Yes, absolutely. And the first points you made as well in regards to combining life sciences with, I guess, what are regularly called hard sciences is a very important point to bear in mind. The mixture of, I guess, art and also mathematics and science is very important in translating across the world. In terms of something very similar, your work has been joining the cultural heritage with science and research, as I said at the start. The conference is focused on the Arab region and Africa, but what can the world learn from the cultural heritage of the Arab world as it works towards peace and prosperity?
So I think that certainly in a country like mine, where we really celebrate 12,000 years of innovations, where Arabs typically, or the inhabitants of this land, have had to celebrate and really have recognized the need to innovate to survive. It all started with science. But today we look at these artifacts that are in our National Museum, for example. We look at the first human form. They were part of a chemical innovation. It was the first innovation that was called the development of plaster. But that was chemistry. And that was about bringing the use of science to make statues that recognize that. And at the same time, when we look at geometry and sacred geometry and all the different aspects of art, which today are sort of boxed as cultural heritage in museums, we say, well, obviously we had to look at the past to be able to plot and plan where we were going to go for the future. And just, incidentally, I studied history of art at university, history of art and Islamic architecture. And so it was my knowledge of the past that helped me to be able to start talking about where we need to go for the future and to learn from those examples. So I think science and cultural heritage are intrinsically linked together. And I would say the common denominator has to be education that brings the two together.
Thank you. Sorry, I was having my own technical difficulties just then.
Yeah, it's one of those days. I don't know what's going on.
As long as we can plod through it, it's enjoyable. And I'm enjoying having the conversation with you, Princess, as well. So we're getting through. So a lot of your work that you've also done has been in improving access. And I suppose for you, what do you see are the opportunities stemming from improving access for female students in particular, but also other underrepresented groups in advancing the Arab region and the rest of the world?
I think if I can say, just look at the participants in this conference alone and the number of women who are going to be speaking over the next couple of days, and what they have done individually and collectively for their countries and for the Arab world. I think the question almost answers itself. In the Arab world, we have always functioned on a meritocracy when it comes to education and higher education. And I think that the most important thing is that we really recognize the fact that probably the oldest university in the world was created by an Arab and a woman in Morocco. I think it's just a matter of us really trying to acknowledge that we have to work shoulder to shoulder. But, the old saying goes, educate a woman and you educate a family. And I think that's what it's all about at the end of the day. You can't exclude half of the world's talent, or we'll never be able to deliver on the fourth industrial revolution for all of society. And that's what it's all about, being as inclusive as possible.
Absolutely. And finally, I know throughout your keynote, you did actually address quite a bit of this, but I'll ask the question again and try to get more, press you on a succinct answer. What do you, and this is the easy question to ask as well, which is where do you envision the future of education in the Arab region going, and how can those within the region and outside it support that journey for you?
I think one of the things, and unfortunately this was something that we all experienced, this isn't a succinct answer at all, because I just want to say that if one thing has happened since, unfortunately, the tragedy of 9/11, it has shown us that a lot of people have not been able to travel abroad, whether it's a tragedy caused in that aspect, or whether it's a tragedy caused through a pandemic such as the one we're experiencing at the moment. I think it has made us all regard national self-reliance as the most important aspect for being able to move forward. So I see that the way in which the Arab world has had to adapt to teaching online, to being able to meet virtually, to be able to do things remotely, this has certainly brought the Arab world together, and probably is stronger than ever before in terms of meetings for the discussion of the investment in human dignity, which is a better education for all. So I see a very bright future for the Arab world. I think we're only just beginning, and we look at the infrastructure that is available. We certainly have the opportunity to leapfrog a process.
Thank you very much for that as well. I do like the point that you've brought up several times, which is a better education for all. Your Royal Highness Princess Sumaya, it has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you again for joining us for this, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you very much, and I wish you all every success.
Ladies and gentlemen, once again, thank you very much to Her Royal Highness Princess Sumaya bint El Hassan for delivering the welcome keynote for QS Maple 2020. Now, as I hinted at in the middle of our discussion, we do have the concurrent sessions coming up just after this break. We'll be breaking for just a few minutes, but take the opportunity to refresh, grab a drink or a cup of coffee or whatever, a bite to eat. When we do return, we will be doing track 1 right here in the auditorium. That's the decade ahead, which is very exciting. There's going to be a ministerial panel for that, led by Hamoud from the Harvard Business Review Arabia. Now, Powering Innovation is also going to be in the theatre. To access either of those rooms, if you want to go to the theatre, simply exit this room, go back and click the link to either theatre or auditorium. In that lobby area as well, you'll be able to access the networking and the exhibition hall that I said. If you do manage to get lost at all, please feel free to speak to one of our staff who'll be more than happy to assist, I should say. Make sure you make new connections using the networking lounge. Don't worry, if there is any tracks that you miss, we will have recordings available on demand at the end of today's program, so you can revisit stuff that you missed, or alternatively rediscover things that you want to see again. The other thing I should say too is that we'll be having a speed networking session at 12:10 p.m. GMT +3 for half an hour to meet other participants. We've done this before. It's been very, very popular. So do make sure you take advantage of that to meet new colleagues from all around the world. As I said, the poster session is also taking place for the first time. Get in there, view it and vote. And also, I should say that on the 31st of March, there'll be the QS Academy, which will be our analytics certification level 1. Sign up to it if you're keen to learn more about data, and speak to our staff for more information. That's me speaking too long already. Enjoy your break, and looking forward to seeing you after it. Thank you.